Okay. And off we go. And I'm just really, really, really excited, buzzing with excitement to have you all here today for this really exciting learning circle for A squared, E squared. Thank you for coming. I want to start by acknowledging that, well, I'm here in Gumbaynggirr country in Bellingen in New South Wales, where we have the Dungar, the bee, and in Gumbaynggirr. And I want to acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge that this land was never ceded. And I want to extend that acknowledgement to all the countries that you are on today, and elders past, present, and emerging from your country, wherever you're hailing from. It's lovely to see people here, I think from all different parts of Australia. So yeah, and just reminding us that the Indigenous people of Australia that have been here for more than 60,000 years are the original environmental educators, and we remember that every day in A squared, E squared. So just wanted to start with that. Um, I am so excited that our beautiful Julie Armstrong, our Environmental Educator of the Year from last year, has agreed to do this learning circle for us. I think, and with the recording, it will be a real resource for all of our educators for this very, very important World Bee Day, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. We can't say B Day too quickly, right? B Day. I keep saying that. I don't know if it's my funny accent or whatever, but World Bee Day, which is coming up. And we just thought it was perfect opportunity for Julie to share her vast knowledge about how we can, what we can, the resources we can use to bring excitement to this day, whether or not we are early childhood, primary, high school, government workers, corporate workers, whoever we are, community educators. There's something here for everybody. So Julie, just to share with you, Julie is, sorry, I didn't introduce myself, and my name isn't even here. I'm Lisa Siegel. I'm the president, the national president of our association. Sorry about that. And Julie is the president of A squared, E squared, the ACT chapter, which is a task or a role that she's just taken on, which is awesome. And she's I'm just, there's a lot to Julie, so I'm just going to share what I'm reading. Besides being a teacher, she's also the founder of ACT for Bees, so ACT for Bees. And I think I shared that website in the information for this event. In Canberra, educating the Canberra community about how important bees and other pollinators are through all sorts of different education. And Julie also leads guided forest therapy walks in Canberra. And yeah, like I said, she has been recognized as the ACT Environmental Educator of the Year and then the national one. And that's a big accomplishment. And we're very excited to have you here, Julie, with your amazing props behind you. I also want to mention that we're delighted to have Amelie Ecology with us today as a special last minute ring-in guest. That was so exciting. And she's going to sing us one of her beautiful songs towards the end of this session. So Julie, I'm going to hand it over to you. So what we're going to do is Julie's going to give a presentation. And so then please, we'll have questions at the end. But before we do that, we would love to know, I recognize some of your names, a lot of your names, but Julie doesn't know everybody and Amelie doesn't know everybody. Could you please, in the chat, I think is easiest, could you please, if you'd like to acknowledge the country that you're from or just share where you're from, both Indigenous name and non-Indigenous name, place name, and also what sector are you from? So Julie knows a little bit more how to gear the presentation. Are you, what environmental education sector are you from? And perhaps any other reason, like why are you here today? So if you could do that in the chat, that would be amazing and super helpful. And do you want to give a little introduction, Julie, while people are doing that, or do you want to give people a couple of minutes just to do that?
I think I'll just give you a minute. I don't think it'll take long. just know that I can't see the chat at the moment because I'm going to be doing the presentation, but I will look later if, just to get an idea about questions. So thank you so much for joining us. It's really exciting. This is a new area really to bring the environmental educators on board, as you as educators in all sorts of different sectors. So Act for Bees began 10 years ago, and it's been the most amazing journey. We're working with schools, we're working with local government, we're working with developers to plant for year-round flowering. We're really working to make the ACT a bee-friendly territory, really important. So we're working in all sorts of ways, and our website has got lots of information that you can use in all sorts of ways. So yeah, please go and look at it later. But first of all, I wish to acknowledge that I'm on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I wish to also really acknowledge country. And the beauty and resilience of this place, the high country. When we have our meetings, the beginning of our meetings, we say this verse. May the bees teach us about the interconnectedness of all of life. We will work together to keep these connections strong. And then in a circle, we each share about what pollinators or what's flowering, or just to set an insight about what's going on in nature at this time. And I want to acknowledge that at this point in Canberra, we have this extraordinary change of the season. It's the harvest time. And in a way, World Bee Day, although it's really set up for spring, in many ways, the autumn or this changing harvest time is ideal to really look at the fruits of what the bees have done in terms of their pollination. And really behind me is Keep the Global Hive Alive. And this was one of the first artistic projects that led to our curriculum, the journey with the curriculum. So World Bee Day really began in 2018. And this, as you can see, this year is a focus on youth. Now I'm just going to go to here. This is actually an ABC broadcast from 2021. And we've actually, the sound was very difficult to hear, but you'll see what we went into Kingsford Smith Primary and we did a World Bee Day celebration with the students, and this ambassador for Slovenian embassy came along, and we also had Slovenian honey breakfast, care of the Rotary Club of Hall. So the children did a little play. They joined in something called a biodiversity play that we'd created and sang the songs. And then the children had also done a lot of learning beforehand about bees. And so the children here are, enjoying honey breakfast, which is held once a year in Slovenia, bread, butter, fresh honey, of course, an apple and some milk. And preschool kindies, year 1 and 2 joined in. And then Yvonne and I were the bees doing the waggle dance. This is at the Slovenian embassy, the beautiful Slovenian hive, which is quite different. They have traditional pictures on the front. They're really quite extraordinarily beautiful, really pictures from the old times. This was Canberra during the bushfires, and so the bees were really affected by the smoke. And this is John Roberts talking about the issue that there really wasn't enough food around for bees during the summer because of the smoke, because of not enough rain. Here are the bees. This is Cormac Farrell, who's the head beekeeper of Parliament House. He's just written a book, which is going to be produced in October. Here's Yuri, the Slovenian ambassador. Now he's back in Slovenia, but there's a new one. And this is inside the hive. It's a vertical frame. It's quite different to the way ours. And then John's talking about the varroa mite, just the varroa hadn't come to Australia then, but just what an impact that will have. And I think possibly many of your areas has varroa now, so it's quite a different situation. This year in Canberra has been a really bad season again. Here they're doing be a bee and pollinate the apple tree. So the children have got basically powdered chalk. Okay, I'll just go on. Sorry. And they put their finger in the chalk and then they pollinate the apple flowers. So basically, you know, in terms of being the environmental education and education for sustainability in the environment, I thought that actually including the sustainability goals would be a good thing for you. Just there's a couple of resources that Lisa will set out later. You know, one research paper said 15, but I could only see 10. But it really, you know, they're so important. And I just want to give you an overview because although many of you may know, I've found that even when I talk to experts that they may just not be quite on, you know, just. So basically pollination is about transferring the pollen from flower to flower. And honeybees in particular really are flower specific. So they go from, when they go out on a run, they go from apple to apple to apple to apple. So this really ensures good pollination. When I'm not actually sure about the native bees, just to show that we have lots of different native bees where you are all around Australia, you'll have many different species. You may be very lucky to have the tetragonula, which are the Australian native bees that live in colonies. Most native bees are solitary and ground dwelling. This is a leaf cutter bee cutting a rose petal, and she actually lines her cocoon with the soft petals, could be buddleia, whatever, and then lays her eggs. The reed bee often lives in pithy stems. Teddy bear bees and the blue-banded bees are buzz pollinators. They're very much like the bumblebee, and they're really important for buzz pollination of tomatoes, because the tomatoes actually don't, the tomato flower doesn't release their pollen unless it's buzz pollinated. So honeybees actually can't pollinate tomato flowers. The carpenter bee is a very large bee, and they live in they basically live in wood. So just to give you a bit of an idea, this basically the difference between Australian native bees. There are about 20,000 species worldwide of native bees. Australia's got about 2,000 species, and the main thing is that they actually often live by themselves. There's only one or a few, whereas honeybees live in huge, very well organised colonies. And so in many ways, the native bees are very, very susceptible to development, to pesticides, to everything that we do in the environment, including lack of flowers, because their foraging distance is 200 to 500 metres, whereas a honeybee can go up to 10 kilometres. The native bees in Canberra, they basically start appearing really October, really more in November, December. And by now, I just saw a native bee the other day, but they're starting to disappear. We're getting, you know, starting to get frosts. There are places around Australia that have them all year, but in, you know, Canberra, in high country, there's not so many. So luckily, the native bees are not affected by varroa mite, but now, you know, with the honeybees, it is an issue. So, yeah, these are ground dwelling and these are tree dwelling, and often high tree dwelling. So it's just very interesting, the different ways. And I really want to emphasize that it's mainly female bees in a colony of honeybees. Please just remember that. It's like mainly females working together, this incredibly cooperative community for the good of the whole. So just, you know, this is just a picture of the honeybee pollinating the strawberry flower. each of those little flowers actually needs to be pollinated. So all of those are the ones, and then that creates a strawberry. So it's actually probably about 50 to 100 visits. It's not just one. And obviously honeybees and native bees together create improved pollination. So this is just a picture of, we think that when, you know, your food's been pollinated, but actually that's really well pollinated. And obviously at the end of a season, we often have wonky cucumbers. They just haven't been properly pollinated. And poor pollination means it's actually not economic for a farmer. So farmers and growers and, you know, backyard growers need to have lots of pollinators, insects in our garden and schools to have, you know, proper produce. This obviously hasn't been properly pollinated, and this one has. So it's not just none, it's actually fewer. They need 8 to 20 visits by a pollinator. So this is with pollinators, you know, carrots, potatoes, you know, just you think carrots, why carrots? Well, because of the seeds. It's just so important. Pollination is about seeds for the future. And it's not just the food that we eat, it's the food of all of the ecosystem. 95% of flowering plants need good pollinators. And so when we start to see biodiversity loss, then we start to see, you know, the flow on. Now, you know, we are focused on bees. We started with honeybees. We've, you know, included obviously native bees, and we now call ourselves Act for Bees and other pollinators, but I really am not an expert on the other pollinators. And I'm certainly, you know, I'm still very much learning my native bees, but you know, the eastern spinebill, eastern pygmy possum, you know, all of these different species. The grey-headed flying fox are absolutely critical for rainforest regeneration and seeds. The hoverflies are fantastic. These here are really wonderful beneficial insects to have. They come really early in the season, and they actually lay their eggs in aphids, and then their larvae actually eat the aphids, so they're really good. The different sorts of wasps and flies are also pollinators. Apparently even, you know, mosquitoes are pollinators. But really we do rely on the bees for the pollination of our food crops. So really, it's really about food security, biodiversity and healthy ecosystems. And really the loss of biodiversity is actually at this point a more of a threat than climate change. And so when we start to look at, this is really a local Canberra ecosystem. We've got the black cockatoos, we've got all sorts of different, this is a blue-banded bee, we've got all sorts of different bees and firetails and gangs and you know, the amphibians as well. And when you start to take pollinators out, which means seeds or insects, you know, we're not just looking at pollinators, we're also looking at insects. So many insectivorous birds, which are small birds, actually need kilos of insects to feed their young in the spring. So it's about actually maintaining a really high insect, but that really brings a balance. So we want all of these different species. So really what we're about is how to have a balanced garden, you know, a balanced ecosystem. So our website, Love Food, Love Bees, has got lots and lots of different resources. And let me just have a look, see what I've missed out. And I just wanted to really share with you the resources that we've created and things that have been fun to do in all sorts of different situations, and things that you might, particularly I'm looking at educators in schools, but it's also, you know, everyone can hold a World Bee Day event. If you decide to do something down at your local farmers market, or even outside, we've got a Cross Land Care is holding an event that they held last year outside the, you know, the supermarket. And they've got children's activities and selling plants and information. So basically, on our website, we've got in the Learn section, we've got the curriculum resources for educators, but also for community and urban planning. And we did an event with Gin and Dairy, the developers, for local councils, we had Yass Shire and Queanbeyan Shire, and we had ACT government, obviously, and experts and landscape architects also hosted it to really educate landscape architects and the people who do the gardening and people, just apartments or whatever, about how easy it is to plant for pollinators and to maintain a biodiverse garden. We've got posters for your garden, and we've also got bee and nature stories for children. So please, go later to our website and check out those. These posters and bee and nature stories are right down the bottom of that page, so it just needs a bit more searching. So just to start, starting with the Global Hive, I was working with young people, a group called Stars of Hope from Arana Steiner School, and they really wanted to do a production about bees to take to Kids Teaching Kids, and this was probably in about 2015. And Kids Teaching Kids was basically where different schools from the local area and region came together, and the students really did something to show what they'd learned. And it was all about education for sustainability and environment. And so when they showed this production, they did absolutely everything. I didn't have a clue how to do a PowerPoint or anything. It was just absolutely fantastic. They did a puppet show. And we realised that actually the students and the teachers didn't know that bees and our food were connected. It was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so I started to look at the national curriculum and ask other teachers, because at that point I'd actually stopped teaching in a school. And it was like, oh my goodness, bees aren't in the curriculum. And so we started looking around at, around the world for good curriculum, and we could only find photostats and things that weren't really that engaging. And so we eventually found Cool Australia, curriculum writers, and we decided that they were the people who were going to, work with our curriculum. So the first one we did was actually the next one, but this one is for early learning, and they're really, because I come from a Steiner background, I love the interactive and nature play aspect of them. And particularly for this time of the year, these are just fantastic because you're taking children into nature to look for seeds and, growing seeds and comparing seeds. And it's really outdoor things, but also, real things you can do. So they're designed to be sensory and play-based, encouraging children to engage with the natural world. They'll explore the importance of native bees, how plants grow from seeds, the different types of seeds we eat, the features of bees, how seeds grow in fruits and vegetables, and how to be safe around bees. So that's really important. They also do art and craft projects. So really this QR code is designed to take you to the cool.org Love Food, Love Bees page. So this was the first one we did, the year 5-6. And ultimately, I have to say, these are designed to do all of them. So we have found that teachers pick and choose, but actually it's a journey from the beginning. If you can, start with the being curious, go out and do the being observant and being mindful. It's really looking out to see what pollinators are in plants. And for me, journeying from Steiner education through to being an environmental educator and a forest therapist, it's about the absolute real need for our children to be outside, engaging in nature, really learning about the seasons. And so wherever you can, to spend time, even before you go into the classroom, looking at what's going on, collecting the leaves at this time and bringing them in, having a nature table, enjoying the changes, enjoying the rain at the moment. We've got wonderful rain. And that's part of the being mindful. Today on Soul Search was a psychologist talking about her journey into how meditation really helps people to be able to cope with stress. It's about the meditation bringing us back more quickly into our balance. So this mindfulness, the mindfulness and meditation, really opening our senses. So this is what I'm going to be doing next week, is sensory walks. Bees, pollination in food, lots of videos and stories. There's a fantastic one about pollinating the blueberries. The farmers actually get in there with the bees, because the blueberries only flower for a couple of weeks, and they need so many visits by the bees that the farmers need to help with paintbrushes. The adaptations, what are the threats, which is really, and obviously with Varroa being, but there's lots of different threats, including just not enough flowers. And then students actually being helpful and doing a project to engage the school community and being more helpful, or the wider community. I actually heard of a school that I did a presentation last week, and they said our community garden was actually taken over by the school for building. And the children had done this Love Food, Love Bees unit, and they all basically, they'd lost their community garden. Then they said to the school, we want the community garden back. And actually the school listened to them. And then they also got a community garden in their local area because they were so passionate about bees. So don't underestimate what you're doing in the classroom about changing people's minds. The children are the ones who will change their parents' minds. So, you know, just in terms of the fear about bees, yes, we do have children who are anaphylactic, but it's also helping children be more calm. This is a really important part, the food security and sustainable agriculture. So this is the high school curriculum. We feel, I have to say, this weekend is celebrating 100 years of biodynamic agriculture in Sydney. There's a conference, a 2-day conference on all about climate, bringing youth in, but also a biodynamic garden in Western Australia. Anyway, agriculture is the second highest driver of climate change. We all eat. And for me, it's actually about our food choices, wherever we can, to choose food that has been grown sustainably, locally, and wherever regeneratively, organically. So this really is a journey for young people to think about, well, where does my food come from? But how's it grown? And then, you know, really learning about the pollinators, learning about a whole range of different sustainable agriculture, and then looking at, well, how can we drive it? How can we support sustainable food? And it's not going to change unless we actually support it. So, you know, I think just in terms of our action for bees, when we are supporting farmers that are taking care of the soil, the water, biodiversity, this is what the organic, the biodynamic, the sustainable, regenerative farmers are doing. Please, let's do it. You know, vote with our money, vote with our pockets, and then taking action, getting kids to change where their food comes from. You know, and for the canteen, you know, are there more sustainable choices they can do to support the local farmers market? So on our Grow page, we've got planting resources for Australia-wide. We've got organic food supplies and organic seeds and seedlings. There's lots of different things. If you see something that, you know, you'd like on there, please let me know. I can add it. Yeah, just have a look. I have to say, it's worth looking at the Powerful Pollinators resources made by the Ween Bee Foundation. They're making planting guides for Australia-wide, and they're also doing bee-certified farming. So really, this help keep the global hive alive. There's also the bee art movement. So there's lots of different artists who are actually working on raising awareness through the bees, and, you know, help keep the global hive alive was one. And there's lots of other ones, and we've got those resources. There's a guy in America who is doing painting as many bees as there are in a hive in all sorts of buildings, in all sorts of schools. He is absolutely awesome. But there's, yeah, many. Now, I just wanted to share different sorts of World Bee Day initiatives that we've been involved in. So the 2018 basically the opening was at the Slovenian embassy, and then it went to the Embassy of Switzerland, and they had a really great range of things, including just some easels with paper on and children painting bees. We had a treasure hunt and a quiz. There was an initiative in a local, basically a linum, just basically a circle of friends said, look, let's do something for World Bee Day. And so they did, had potting up plants. They also had a little basket, with a beehive on and some sandbags to throw in, just some fun things for children. Often there was also, face painting of bees and, films. Now this one, okay. So this was to Rod basically had a top bar beehive. This was at Gin and Dairy, the developer. And they said, would you like to do a World Bee Day celebration for 2019? And so we went along a couple of days beforehand, and it was such fun because he did a presentation. They had a choir who sang for the first time with one voice, their community choir. We did planting for pollinators, and there was also painting. So we had a whole string of paintings hanging up, and then they had honey joys and all sorts of different treats to do with honey, and it was just fun. We had a big afternoon tea together. This was at the Embassy of Sweden, and this is Sue Jones, Dance Kids, who has also won. She's been fantastic. I think she's won Educator of the Year as well. She actually recently got an OBE, so her Dance Kids is tremendously popular. And Canberra, she goes into preschools and early learning to do all sorts of artistic dance with students for science. This is Be a Bee and Pollinate the Apple Tree, which is behind me. Basically, each child gets a little, this is a little acorn cup, and it's got grated yellow chalk in it. And the children just dip their finger in, and then they pollinate. Basically, they put their finger into each of these flowers. They dress up as bees, obviously. And this was an experience I did at Arana Steiner School for class 3 for their farming main lesson. And we did Be a Bee, and, we talked about the bees, and we did all sorts of different things. But it's fun, and children of all ages, including high school, love it. We've done it for the Parliament of Youth as well. So very, very little children to even adults. Now, as a part of that Arana school experience, we also did tree connection. So it was really, the children did, some were Be a Bee, and some were connecting with the trees, some were doing sit spot. And then we came together and did this very wild thing of inside the hive. So the teacher was the queen. We had the ones who took care of the queen. We had the water bearers. We had the honey, the foragers. We had the bees who transfer the nectar to nectar. And when we had the guard bees who went absolutely mad. And it was absolutely such fun and a real experience of being. And then we finished off with honey tasting. But they really, really got to know what it was like inside the hive. And this is all usually within the darkness of the hive. And then there was also a harvest festival, thanks to bees. And basically, the whole school dressed up as bees. And this is this beautiful metallic green carpenter bee. It was just wonderful. They'd also done lots of lessons on bees, and so there was lots of artwork. And also, as a part of that harvest festival, is every child in the school brings in a produce that they actually donate to the local, Oz Harvest, or And so the guy from Oz Harvest was there receiving. And they also bake bread, and I think it's just such a wonderful thing for children to really share the fruits from their garden or whatever. This is a biodiversity play where we have children dressed up as bees. There's birds on one mat, bees on another, and flowers or seeds that develop into flowers and then fruit. And this was a very, very cold World Bee Day where it was absolutely blowing a gale. This is my husband, Matt, who's the singer. So we basically, the children grow from seeds into plants into flowers. And you can do this in the classroom. And then, you know, the bees come along and they pollinate the flowers, and then they turn into seeds and they drop down, and that goes back into the soil. And then the birds are in their nest and they fly down and they swoop and collect the seeds and then take them back. And then each child, basically, it's really an experience of the whole of the biodiversity of how everything connects. And then the children change over. So everybody gets a chance to be a seed, a bird, and a bee. Just a whole lot of different ideas. I'm really happy to, you know, share. This was something we started last year for Australian Pollinator Weeks. Some native bees made out of casuarina cones, some banksia, and also pine cones. So pine cones, little pine cones, are really nice. You just wrap wool around the cone. This was actually, this is actually a gum leaf that I stamped out with one of those stampers. And it was so much easier than putting blobs of wool on, just double-sided tape. And look, these wings are, you know, quite a thing to cut out, but they actually last. If you've got any wool, you can use wool as well, but they're just fun. And that obviously is a seed, some sort of seed from the garden. I can't remember what. So just, you know, there's a whole lot of other resources which Lisa is just going to send out later. So I'm just going to whip through those. Obviously, World Bee Day is the peak body. There's lots of different events happening around Australia. Obviously, here's Emily. We're so grateful for, you know, for her to be here, and she's developing amazing resources, and her music is just fantastic. She's going to sing later. Junior Landcare has got some fantastic resources too. We've got the Centre for Bee Education. This is through the Ween Bee organisation, which is the peak organisation in Australia for World Bee Day, Australian Pollinator Week, but also works with farmers. So bee certified farming and gardening. So they're actually working with farmers to really bring them up to think about speed about how important pollinators are on their farm and to take care of their pollinators. So if you want to have a hive of honeybees in your school, they've got resources to show you how to do it. This plant to pollinator through the Australian Museum is absolutely brilliant. It's got really good resources on the different flowers and different pollinators. Lots of information. Thanks, Emily, for doing that. And this is Sue Jones' Dance Kids then developed Take Flight curriculum. Now, when I went to their website, it looked as though it was not actually operating at the moment, but I think, you know, if you email them and you're interested in, if you're a dance person or something who likes, you know, the arts, definitely get in contact and find out what's going on. Now, this is really something that the Regeneration Learning Hub. It's something that basically Rachel's farm, it's to do with agriculture, but also it's about regeneration in all sorts of different ways. This is Damon Gameau. Again, Lisa will send out this link. It's got lots and lots of learning resources. It's really, really valuable for all these different environmental days we're going to be celebrating. I really urge you to have a look at it. It's very exciting, and join their community. So just really, you know, briefly, this is on our website. Basically, you know, plant bee friendly, whatever plants, stones from drowning, really make sure the water is clean. Again, learn about companion planting, organic growers, sustainable, local, and garden signs. It's really great if you've got garden signs, and we've got some. Actually, sorry, we've got a new website, so I'm not absolutely sure if we've got bee friendly, but as you can see with my sheet, I'm bee friendly. I've got a bee friendly t-shirt. So that's it. I might just go back to stop share and then, okay, good. So that's actually pretty good timing. So are there any questions?
We were going to thank you, Julie. That was amazing. And I cannot even start to begin to say all the things that I just learned. I thought I knew about bees, but now, wow, my mind's blown. We were going to ask Amelie to perform her song first, and then and then have questions after that, if that's okay. And so, yeah, you can, I'm just popping these resources into the chat as well as I will send them out. But in the meantime, Amelie, you ready to go? Yeah, but your mute's on. I can't hear you. What? I just asked to unmute. Will
Unmute.
it?
Okay, how's that?
That's better. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
good, good. Sorry about that. Um, so hi everyone. Thank you, Julie, for sharing all those amazing resources, and for the amazing work you've done with bees and celebrating our pollinators for so long. It's really beautiful. Um, uh, Julie invited me to sing a bit of a song. I might introduce myself briefly first. So my name is Amelie. I have a PhD in native bee ecology, and so my area is in designing, especially urban spaces for pollinators. And during my PhD research, I realized that it was more the education and communication side that I felt really connected with. And so I run workshops and I've created a native bee musical, which takes a lot of that native bee education into a musical format and perform that at festivals, in schools and in preschools. And I have an album coming out this year, which is really exciting. Yay! And I'll put the link in the chat, but the first song on the album is for World Bee Day. It is a lot of what Julie was sharing about pollination, about native bees, and about what we can do for bees in 4 minutes. So if you want to use that in your classrooms or in your communities, I'll put the pre-save link. It's going to be officially out on May 17th, so this Friday, in time for you to be able to use for World Bee Day. That's hopefully a little resource. And I thought I might sing that now, and hopefully it works. Oh, and actually, you're all on mute, so no one's actually going to hear you do this, but I really encourage you to sing along in the chorus. The chorus goes... So no one can hear you, so feel free to buzz along if you want to. A is for the anther where the pollen sits, put up the male stamen with the filament. Bee lands on a flower to collect pollen, store it in her basket like a big yelling. Dances through flowers with much energy, pollen sticks to her fluffy fuzzy body. Each new flower that she visits to another female stigma, the pollen unsticks. Germinate, becoming fruit trees. Now who thinks of honey when we think of bees? Oozy, sticky, go, we lick our fingers with glee. Here's an idea that might feel wacky. Most of bees don't make honey. Oh, over 20,000 kinds of native bees, most of whom are solitary, live alone with a few babies, without a queen, workers, or a colony. If they don't make honey, then what makes it be a bee? Have an important job of pollinating. They feed their young ones pollen as yummy protein. bees, reeds for nesting, bushes and old trees. Underground bees do very well. X marks a hollow, they do dwell. And for the final time, let's sing buzzily. Yay! Thank you, and thank you for welcoming me here to sing that for everyone. I'll put a few links in, but just in the spirit of A squared, E squared, and creative environmental education and nature play, like these songs are resources for all of us to be able to use to connect with the kids in our lives and the students in our lives. So I'll put a few links, but the album will also come with educational resources specifically around native bees and any educators that use gardens as their education space as add-on activities. So I'll put the links to the album, the education kit, which it's a crowdfunder kind of pre-sale at the moment, and that song that you'll be able to listen to from Friday onwards. But yeah, keen to stay connected around native bee things as well.
That's just so wonderful. And what I just love, what I love about what your performance, and also all the things that Julie was presenting as ideas, is that connection between science and art and environmental education and art. And I really think that is such a solid way to really, there's research showing how much more people can be open and understanding, especially children, to the natural world through art, whether it's singing, drama, the creative arts. It's just such a beautiful thing that I think A squared, E squared, really, looks to as well. So we have about 9 minutes for questions or comments or anything. We were going to maybe divide into small groups, but I think we'll just, with the time we have, we'll just stay here and see if anybody has questions for Julie or Amelie. There's lots of thank yous and clappings in the chat. Does anybody want to, have anything, questions? Or Deborah, did you have your chat on? Your microphone on, Deb?
Oh,
Okay.
my microphone's on.
I hear somebody typing a question very.
Yeah.
Give you a buzz. That's great. Julie and Amelie, it was interesting to see the people that are here from the chat earlier are mostly from either primary education or government. So I thought, I don't know why I thought that a lot of early childhood educators would come, but maybe that's a good sign that early childhood educators are all over it, and that the educators of older children and community groups are understanding the need to have more resources. So that's a really interesting thing. Does anybody want to say anything about that? Or Julie, do you see it like even secondary, Julie, as you mentioned, there's all these resources. So how can we get this to be that it's not just a thing for little kids?
Yes, it's very interesting. I think there's a lot of we can bring the citizen science in, and this is where our local, we have Canberra Nature Map, and the citizen science, the Canberra Nature Map is now going into schools to get the students to use their technology to take photos of whatever. And we need the young people to be engaged. And if it's through technology, but that Canberra Nature Map, it's just been announced last week, is actually feeding into the ACT government database, but that is actually then feeding into the national database. for Australian Pollinator Week in November, the second week, 9th to the whatever 20th of November, they've had the wild pollinator count. Now, this was funded for 7 years. It's no longer being funded, but they're still operating. I don't think the data is going into the Emily, can you help me with this?
Yeah, so the wild pollinator count started as someone's research project, and they weren't able to continue on with it after they finished that research, but the Ween Bee Foundation has taken it on as an ongoing project. So this year, from last year onwards, they've developed a training, and I worked with them for some videos around native bee identification for primary school and younger people. But there's now like training videos for identifying pollinators, and the data does go towards a big citizen science project. So that's a great one for anyone who's working in community for a citizen science around pollinators in November. The second week of November, as you said.
So
do I have that link so I can send that out with the other link?
I'll look it up now.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so obviously there's bird watching, there's all sorts of different things, and we really to have young people looking out means they're going outside. Just how to get young people outside into nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That citizen science is such an important thing. Viv, were you going to say something, or you had?
Oh, Julie, I'm amazed. I thought I wouldn't learn that much, but I'm still learning stuff from you. So it's really, really good. And I'll be all enthused to go back to the Botanic Gardens and enthuse the other rangers about bees. Unfortunately, we're going into winter, so we don't see so many of our pollinators. But about the early childhood, I think the reason why the early childhood people aren't here is that it's such an exacting area, and having the energy for upskilling yourself. I think I'm always very concerned of how to actually reach out to them and support them to upskill. I think they do from what I've seen of early childhood settings that I've been in and the ones that come to the Botanic Gardens. Some teachers are doing a great job, because we get quite a few coming in to do, looking at pollinators and things like that in the early childhood. But I still think there's a lot out there that A squared, E squared could help in terms of upskilling themselves, just, to think about things they could do, these wonderful ideas that Julie has about engaging activities and role playing. I mean,
and
all
the
those
music
that Julie mentioned about role playing, I've used them not only with preschoolers, but also with much older children, and they seem to enjoy them just as well.
Yeah, totally.
We did a play with year 4, 5, and so you've got the sun, you've got the water, you've got earth, so you've got all of the different elements, but also we had the local pollinators, and we had the local species, so it was important to make it more specific for our area rather than so general. So it was, the teacher, and it was quite a thing to actually work out, what happens in our web of life in Canberra. Yeah.
And thanks for mentioning that too, because I'm curious as well. Like, just before we started, I looked up the Gumbaynggirr word for bee, but I don't in the Gumbaynggirr stories, for instance, I don't hear that much about bees. So I'm wondering if there are more Indigenous stories about bees that could be shared a little bit more widely, or how do we find our local stories about our local animals? I think that's a really good point, Julie.
Yes. Yeah, well,
we have a couple minutes left. Are there any? I just want to make sure everybody's been able to ask any questions or make any comments they want to make. Some people have already had to chuff off, but is there anybody else that wants to say anything before we, while we have these two amazing experts here. Of course, they both have their contact details. You can get in touch with them for further ideas, or if you wake up in the middle of the night buzzing with something, buzzing with questions.
I'm hoping that, you know, is there anyone who's celebrating World Bee Day in their community? Or would, you know, is going
Sorry,
to...
Emily, I just put you on mute because we could hear you typing, but do you want to unmute yourself? And were you just gonna say yes? No, you're on mute. So.
Yeah, me? You're talking to me?
No, Amelie's on mute.
Oh, Amelie.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Byron Bay Public School might have a little event now that I've got some resources to go to, and I can probably pull something together fairly quickly. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
I mean, even for the primary people, I mean, Emily has like that song on YouTube. So you could just say, can we share that YouTube video at a school assembly, you know, and let all the kids dance along. That's like, it could be as simple as that. Or, you know, if you work in a council or somewhere at your staff meeting, go, it's World Bee Day and I'm now going to share a video with you, or, you know, and then follow it up with resources, the lists of resources. So, you know, just it's that sneaking it in there, isn't it, Deborah?
Yeah.
So where will the recording of this, so I can share it, the recording of the webinar?
Well, I'm hoping that we can put a link to it on our website, but I definitely want to share it. There were 37 people that registered for this workshop, and as we know, educators register for things and then some disaster happens at school or work and, you know, that can't come. So there are a lot of people that are very interested, obviously. Yeah, I think we have to figure out a way to put them on the website so that they can be a resource afterwards. Yeah.
Because it was such a great slideshow. So much in it.
So much in it. Yeah.
And plus the resources that have been mentioned as well.
Absolutely. So we're at 5:30. So I just really want to let's give a big buzzy hand to Julie and Amelie. Really, really appreciate your time to come here today and share it with us. And Elizabeth is saying that the sustainability leaders of Wheeler Heights Public School will celebrate and install a bee bath with rocks to avoid drowning, I guess. Everybody's thanking you. If you can quickly look at the chat. Love the song, all the resources. Just also want to share with you that hopefully, now, what are those, Peter? Little rocket ships of joy.
They're rocket ships of joy. I don't know. I felt it.
The future pollinators or something. Thank you so much. So we're getting together quite a good, this was the kind of relaunch of our learning circles this year. So thank you so much again, Julie and Amelie. June 18th, I just today put together the event site for our next learning circle, which is going to be with Dr. Tilly Wijesinghe, who is going to be presenting on climate change education using speculative drama. So again, we're going to be looking at the arts and how that fits in with environmental education. And Tilly did her PhD on this, and in Sri Lanka and in Australia, with young people using drama as a tool for climate education. So which fits in really well with our climate education summit, which is happening later in the year. So watch out for that in our bulletin. There's just so much really good stuff happening. So we hope to see you at future events. Really appreciate you all being here today. And we will see you again soon. So thanks, everybody. And maybe Julie and Amelie, if you could just stay on really quickly, so we can have a quick chat before.
I can see someone's just put in the chat, what's the Climate Education Summit, if something could